My wife humiliated me in front of our closest friends. That night, I didn't scream, I didn't fight, I watched, waited, and when the truth finally surfaced, I didn't get mad. I got even. Legally, quietly, completely. It started with laughter, and not the kind you forget easily. Friday night, game night, a tradition at Matt and Caroline's place. Charades, wine, inside jokes. The kind of night that was supposed to remind you why you got married in the first place. Jessica, my wife of 7 years, stood in the center of the living room with a glass of wine and too much confidence. She was miming something ridiculous, her arms flailing as everyone doubled over laughing. I laughed too, out of habit, not humor. Then came the joke. Okay. Imagine Neil trying to initiate anything after 9 p.m. That's the real challenge. You want awkward charades? That's a nightly scene at our house. The room erupted. Matt nearly choked on his drink. Caroline clapped like it was stand-up night. I smiled. It wasn't real, but it looked real enough. Just a soft chuckle to keep the moment from turning. My heart was racing, my face burned. Jessica didn't glance at me. Not once. She was still basking in the reaction, proud of the laugh she'd scored at my expense. It wasn't the first time she joked about me in public, but it was the first time it didn't bounce off. It sank in, quiet and sharp. When we got home, she kicked off her heels and crashed on the couch like nothing had happened. That was fun, she said, already on her phone. I stood by the door, keys still in my hand, wondering when the jokes had started and how many had gone unnoticed. That night, I didn't say a word. I just sat on the edge of the bed later, staring at the floor, letting silence answer questions I hadn't asked out loud yet. My name's Neil. I'm 38. I manage logistics for a mid-sized warehouse in Cincinnati. I eat the same sandwich every day. I check the weather twice before leaving the house. My life is predictable, on purpose. Jessica and I bought a brick house on a quiet street. It was never glamorous, but it was ours. And until that night, I thought it was enough. We didn't have fireworks, but we had consistency. Or so I thought. The thing about emotional distance is it doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it shows up as a cold laugh, a shrug, a night spent on separate sides of the bed with a screen between you. The next evening, I tried, not because I thought it would fix anything, but because part of me needed to believe the connection wasn't dead. We were both in bed. Lights dimmed. Jessica was scrolling through her phone. I reached for her. Gently, my hand touched her arm, then her side. Just closeness. A reminder. She didn't react, didn't flinch, just kept scrolling. Hey, I whispered. I was thinking maybe we could have some time tonight. Just us. She sighed, still looking at her screen. Neil, I'm emotionally drained, okay? Can we not do this right now? Do what? I asked, barely keeping my voice steady. She finally looked at me, her expression already set. This whole needy routine. I've had a long day. I'm not in the mood to play house. That word, needy, hit harder than she probably intended. I pulled my hand back like it had touched something hot. Okay, I said quietly, lying back and staring at the ceiling. She rolled over and went back to her phone until the glow faded and her breathing slowed. I stayed awake for hours, staring at shadows on the ceiling, feeling something unravel inside me. It wasn't just about the rejection. It was how casual it was, how practiced. The next morning, we moved through the house like co-workers on different shifts. She grabbed a protein bar. I poured coffee. A few words about traffic, dry cleaning, nothing that felt like home. At work, I stared at spreadsheets and ignored the growing noise in my gut. Around lunch, I texted her, "Hope your day's better today." No reply. That night, she came home late, said she got caught up with a friend. No guilt in her voice. No mention of the night before. She said she was tired, said she'd crash on the couch. The couch. In the same house as me, but already a world apart. She didn't say goodnight. She didn't even close the bedroom door quietly. That's when I knew, not because of anything big, just the quiet. The kind of quiet that tells you the person beside you stopped being yours a long time ago. Friday night came again, but I didn't feel like charades or small talk. Instead, I sat across from Ryan at Beckett's Grill, a local dive where the menu hadn't changed in years, and the lights were always too dim. My burger sat untouched while he sipped his beer and studied me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. It wasn't true, but it was easier than explaining. Ryan leaned in. "You sure she's not seeing someone?" I scoffed, but it didn't land. Not convincingly. "No, it's not like that." He didn't push, just raised an eyebrow, then let it go. But the seed was planted. My gut, already restless, started to turn over things I'd dismissed for weeks. Jessica's emergency errands, her new obsession with late-night Target runs, sudden work dinners on weekends, and the silence that had filled the space between us like fog. It wasn't just emotional drift, it was strategic. I got home late that night. Jessica was already in bed, or pretending to be. I stood there in the dark watching her. Her shape was familiar, but her presence wasn't. The warmth had been gone so long I almost forgot what it felt like. The next morning, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't mean to look, but I did. A name popped up I didn't recognize. Travis. "Wish I was waking up next to you again." My breath caught. I picked up the phone before I could stop myself. Opened the message. There were more. Flirty, personal, recent. They told a story louder than anything she had said in weeks. "Last night was the best. You always know how to make me forget everything. Don't worry, he won't find out." I set the phone down, walked to the edge of the bed and sat like someone had hit me in the chest. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, listening to the water running behind the bathroom door, like the world hadn't just shifted. She came out minutes later, smiling casually. "You're up early." I nodded. "Couldn't sleep." She hummed, walked past me, and said nothing else. That night I slept on the couch. She didn't ask why. After that I noticed more things. The new perfume, the louder laughter, the clothes I'd never seen before. Her phone, once forgotten on the kitchen counter, was now glued to her hand. She stopped cooking, stopped asking if I'd eaten, stopped pretending. I watched, and when she said she had dinner plans or errands or late meetings, I didn't argue. I listened. I logged it. One night I followed her, not far, just a few blocks to where an old pizza joint used to be. I parked without headlights and watched as she met a man on the sidewalk. He touched the small of her back. She leaned into him like they'd done it 100 times before. They kissed. I didn't drive away immediately. I needed to see it for what it was. Not a misunderstanding, not an accident, a choice. I went home alone, the steering wheel tight in my hands. Still, I didn't confront her. There was no satisfaction left in winning an argument with someone who had already checked out. Instead, I printed the divorce papers. I left them on the kitchen counter the next evening, just before she came home. She breezed in, twirling her keys, laughing at something on her phone. She didn't even see the papers until after she'd poured a glass of wine. When she noticed them, she paused, then smirked. "I see someone's feeling brave," she said. I kept chopping vegetables at the counter. I didn't look up. She flipped through the pages. "So this is it, huh? All that silence, and now you've got a spine?" Still, I didn't respond, not until she stepped closer. "You think this makes you strong? Sleeping on the couch for weeks like some sad dog, and now what? You're done?" I turned. Calm, the knife still in my hand, not raised, just present. "No," I said. "I'm trying to find peace." She rolled her eyes. "Please, you're just mad I moved on first." "You didn't move on, you escaped. Big difference." She chuckled, took a long sip of her wine. "Fine, I'll sign. But don't think I'm crawling away. I'll be just fine." "I hope you are," I said. "I really do." That night she left the signed papers on the table, folded once, like they meant nothing. 3 days passed. No more perfume, no more late-night humming from the couch, just quiet. I started brewing my own coffee again. I stopped checking her phone's location. The house felt less like a tomb and more like space I could finally breathe in. But I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Only Ryan knew. Barely. Then came the knock on the door. Sabrina, Jessica's best friend, stood there holding coffee and a box of muffins. "I was in the neighborhood," she said. I blinked. "Does Jessica know you're here?" "No," she said. "She'd lose it." We sat at the kitchen island. She poured the coffee. No small talk. Then she said, "You were the only thing in her life she couldn't control, and she hated that." I didn't answer, because the truth of it cut too clean. I didn't plan to see Sabrina again. But 2 nights later, I did. It was late on a Thursday. I'd gone to O'Malley's, a quiet bar with decent bourbon and cheap lighting. I wasn't looking for anyone, just needed noise that wasn't my own thoughts. Then I heard a laugh that stopped me mid-sip. Sabrina. She was by the jukebox, drink in hand, smiling at something the bartender said. When she noticed me, her smile didn't drop. She walked over like this wasn't unexpected. "Twice in 1 week," she said, sliding into the seat beside me. "Must be fate. Or Cincinnati's just too small," I replied. We talked. Not about Jessica. Not at first. Childhood stories. Bad movies. The ridiculous things people post online. The way it felt to rediscover silence when it didn't mean neglect. At one point I asked, "Why did you come over the other day? Really?" Sabrina didn't dodge. "To see if you were okay, and maybe to see how I felt." "About what?" She looked down, then met my eyes again. "About you." I didn't rush to respond. I just sat with it. For the first time in a long while, I felt steady. Seen. We didn't dance. We didn't touch. But when she reached across the table and rested her hand on mine, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt overdue. Outside, as we left, the air was sharp. She leaned in. The kiss was brief, quiet, no drama, just clarity. The next morning, Jessica saw the photo. Someone had snapped it at the bar. Sabrina and me, close enough to be unmistakable. The image made it onto someone's story. That's how Jessica found out. At 7:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Are you serious? No greeting, no context, just a question that dripped with accusation." I didn't answer. An hour later, she called. I let it ring. By noon, she was on my doorstep, pounding hard enough to wake the block. I opened the door, not for her, but to keep the scene from going public. She shoved her phone in my face. "You and her? Of all people?" I stayed calm. "What do you want, Jess?" Her voice jumped. "I want to know how you could do this. You think that's okay?" I didn't answer immediately. I wanted the weight of silence to do its job. Then I said, "You lost the right to be shocked when you started texting Travis." Her jaw tightened. "I never meant for it to go that far." I tilted my head. "What was the point then? Making me the joke in every room? Pretending you were just tired while sleeping with someone else?" She crossed her arms. "You weren't supposed to move on first." That was it. The truth. Raw and ridiculous. "So that's what this is?" I asked. "Not about love. About scorekeeping." Jessica didn't deny it. She just stood there, breathing hard, pride unraveling. "I didn't plan for anything to happen with Sabrina," I told her. "But she saw me when you didn't. She cared when you didn't. And I stopped chasing someone who had already walked away." Her eyes welled, but not with remorse, with loss. "I made a mistake," she said. "I thought you'd always be there. You assumed I would stay, no matter what." Silence followed. For once, she had nothing left to throw. She finally stepped back, phone still in hand like it held her last defense. "I never thought I'd lose you," she whispered. "You didn't," I replied. "Not now. You lost me months ago. You just didn't notice until I stood next to someone else." She left without another word. 3 days later, I was packing up her leftover things when I found the journal, buried under a pile of scarves in the hallway closet. I almost put it back. But curiosity can be cruel. I opened it. Jessica's handwriting was quick, slanted, always rushing ahead of her own edits. At first it was familiar. Grocery lists, frustrations about work. Then I saw Sabrina's name. "Sabrina says I need to test Neil more, push his limits. She says I'm too soft on him, that I let him feel like he's in charge when I'm the one pulling the strings." I kept reading. "Sabrina says men like Neil need destabilizing. That comfort makes them lazy." My stomach turned. There were pages of this. Little notes from their friendship, laced with control disguised as advice. Manipulation framed as empowerment. Then the shift came. "Sometimes I think Sabrina is too invested in my marriage. She watches Neil too closely, talks about him in ways that aren't just friendly. Am I imagining that?" The final entry ended with a question I didn't want to finish reading. What if she wants him? I shut the journal. That night I didn't sleep. I thought about the look in Sabrina's eyes at the bar, the warmth in her voice when she asked how I was doing. Had she always wanted me? Had she been playing both sides? The next morning she texted like nothing had happened. Brunch downtown, my treat. I said yes. We sat under an awning at a small cafe with too many potted plants. We sipped coffee and nibbled at cinnamon toast. And finally I said it. I found Jessica's journal. Sabrina froze, just for a second. She wrote about you, I continued. Said you told her to test me. That chaos keeps men interested. Sabrina didn't flinch. I did say that. A long time ago. I thought if she saw what she was about to lose, she might wake up. She didn't. I stared at her. You wanted her to lose me? I didn't want to, but I did, she said. I saw how small you became around her. And yeah, I crossed lines. In my head, in my heart. But I never acted. Not until she walked away. She looked at me steady. You were never mine to want, but I couldn't stand watching you disappear. Her honesty stunned me. Not because of what she said, but because she didn't try to spin it. Now what? I asked. She smiled faintly. Now you decide if I'm just another chapter in her story, or if I'm someone ready to write a new one with you. The decision wasn't instant. I needed time to process what I'd learned. Sabrina had stood close enough to the fire to get burned, and maybe she had fanned it a little too, but she'd also stepped in when no one else did. That meant something. I didn't bring it up again. Life moved forward, quietly. I started walking to work when the weather allowed. I cooked for myself again. Nothing fancy, just meals that didn't come in takeout boxes. Sabrina and I kept seeing each other, slowly. There were no declarations, no labels, just consistency. Peaceful moments that didn't need to be earned or explained. Then came Caroline's birthday. Ryan convinced me to go. He said it was time to stop avoiding mutual friends in public places. Sabrina offered to come with me. I hesitated but said yes. The party was on a rooftop downtown, the kind of place Jessica would have loved. Loud music, curated cocktails, people pretending to care what each other did for work. We walked in, hand in hand. It felt strange at first, not wrong, just unfamiliar. And then I saw her, Jessica. She was near the bar, alone. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on us faster than I expected. For a second, her expression didn't change. Then her gaze dropped to Sabrina's hand in mine, and everything shifted. Half an hour passed before she approached. Sabrina and I were sitting near the balcony. The view of the skyline was clear. The breeze was steady. I felt her presence before she spoke. Can I steal him for a minute? Sabrina didn't say anything. She just loosened her grip slightly. I nodded, followed Jessica to the far edge of the rooftop, where the music was softer. I miss you, she said. I didn't respond. I made a mess, she continued. I let something good rot because I thought I'd have time to fix it. I didn't think you'd walk away. I studied her. She wasn't angry, not defensive, just uncertain. That was new. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe we could talk, not to rewind, just to start over. No games, no keeping score. I let the words hang in the air. You didn't love me, I said. You loved control. You liked being the one who decided when we connected. If we connected. She shook her head. No, you lost that, and now you're here. I glanced back. Sabrina hadn't moved. She was still watching. Not possessive, not anxious. Just there. Trusting me to handle this without stepping in. I found peace after you left, I told Jessica. I'm not giving that up. For the first time since I met her, she looked defeated. Not angry or manipulative, just stripped of whatever edge she'd always held on to. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her expression broke for a second, a flicker of something almost vulnerable. And then she walked away. No scene, no parting insult, just turned and vanished into the crowd like she was never part of my story. I returned to the table, sat beside Sabrina. She didn't ask what was said, didn't need to. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. That night, the city lights felt softer, the air less heavy. We didn't talk about the confrontation. We didn't need to analyze the past again. Some things are better left closed once they've finally shut. 2 days later, Sabrina and I spent the afternoon at a quiet park. It wasn't a date, just time. No pressure. As we sat watching people pass by, she looked at me and said, "I don't want to be your rebound." "You're not," I said. "You're just not what I expected." And that's the first good surprise I've had in a long time. We walked for hours that day, no big moment, no confessions. Just the slow, steady kind of clarity that doesn't ask to be noticed. Later that week, Ryan asked how things were going. I said, "Different." "Good different?" I thought for a second. "Yeah, for the first time in years, it feels like I'm the one choosing." He smiled. "Took you long enough." And he was right. It wasn't about replacing Jessica. It wasn't even about Sabrina. It was about what came after the storm, the part where you realize you didn't drown. You just learned how to breathe without someone else holding your air. It had been a month since the rooftop party. Jessica hadn't reached out again. No messages, no surprise visits, just silence. This time the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Sabrina and I were moving at our own pace, uncomplicated. We met for lunch, watched bad documentaries, traded stories about high school disasters and work mishaps. No hidden motives, no tension, just two people figuring it out. Then on a slow Sunday, I got a text from her. "Mind if I stop by?" She arrived with coffee and a bag of bagels. We sat on the back porch. The sun was out. Birds made just enough noise to keep the silence from feeling too still. "I've been thinking about that journal," I said, "about what Jessica wrote." Sabrina didn't tense. She just nodded. "You said you crossed lines in your head, but you never acted, not until she walked away." "I meant that," she said. "I wanted to be careful. I still do." I looked at her. "Do you think you were waiting for me to fall apart?" "No," she replied. "I was hoping you'd stop pretending you were okay." That's not the same. That distinction mattered. It landed. Later that week, while clearing out the last of Jessica's things, I found an old wedding photo tucked in a drawer. We were smiling. I looked happy, but I didn't recognize the man in the picture. Not really. He looked careful, like someone who hadn't figured out he was already bending too much just to avoid breaking. I threw the photo away. One afternoon, Sabrina asked if I wanted to go with her to a gallery downtown, something about a friend's exhibit. Lots of abstract art. I said sure, expecting little more than a polite walk through rooms filled with things I wouldn't understand. But standing beside her, watching how she interpreted every piece, not with arrogance, but with curiosity, I realized something. I wasn't shrinking anymore. I wasn't adapting or apologizing or trying to be less so someone else could feel more. I was just there, present, free to speak or not, free to be. Afterward, we grabbed dinner, casual place, good food, no rush. She asked me what I wanted out of all this. This being whatever we were building. "I want something that doesn't cost me my peace," I said. She smiled. That's the first healthy answer I've ever heard to that question. I didn't say more. I didn't need to. A few nights later, I got another reminder of the past. Ryan forwarded me a post from Jessica's new account. Some quote about rebirth and self-worth. A selfie. A caption hinting at betrayal. The usual. I didn't respond. I didn't even open the post. Because none of it mattered anymore. The person who hurt me didn't get to decide how the story ended, and the person who helped me heal didn't need to fix everything. Just be there while I did it myself. Sabrina and I weren't a fairy tale. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no sunset kiss framed in perfect timing. There was just real effort, clear intention, the kind of relationship where nothing had to be hidden or earned through suffering. One night, as we were walking back to her place, she stopped. "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" she asked. I paused. I already did. That's how I moved on. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "That's the healthiest thing you've said since I met you." "I'm full of surprises," I said. She laughed. We kept walking. That's how it went. Day by day, not erasing what had happened, just refusing to let it define everything that came next. A few weeks later, I ran into Matt at the grocery store. He looked uncomfortable, said Jessica had told people her version of things. I nodded, didn't ask for details. Matt hesitated. "For what it's worth, man, we saw it. Before you did, we just didn't know how to say anything. I appreciated the honesty, even if it came late. That night, I told Sabrina about the conversation. She didn't gloat or dissect it, just said, "You deserved better the whole time. I'm just glad you finally believe it." I did, not because she said it, because I'd started acting like it. The story didn't end with revenge. It didn't need to. Jessica had already lost the one thing she took for granted. Me, the real ending was smaller, but deeper. I stopped waiting for apologies. I stopped expecting closure to come from anyone else's mouth. I stopped asking why. Instead, I rebuilt, quietly, intentionally. Piece by piece, I became someone I recognized again. And when I looked at Sabrina, I didn't see rescue. I saw someone walking beside me. Not in front, not behind, just beside. That was enough. Maybe even more than enough.